Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is our second day at camp. This will be the third presentation. Let's open with prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you as we gather here today to try to get a better understanding of your word. I ask and pray that you would guide, direct, and bless us. Give us the wisdom to overcome the technical difficulties that we experience and any logistical problems that come our way. And through all these trials and temptations, help us to ride above them so that they do not distract us, that they do not depress us, and that we can receive a blessing that you want to give to us, despite all the trials that come. May we focus upon your word now, in Jesus' name. Amen. The last couple of presentations we've done, we have been doing some question and answers. First two presentations have already been uploaded. And the first presentation, we focused upon our equality with God. And the second presentation that we did, does anybody want to give like a one sentence summary of what that was about?
Definition of equality.
Good. It's a good definition, a good explanation. So the title that I gave for that one was The Essence of Equality. And that's very similar to the answer that Peter just gave. So both of those presentations were based upon a series of questions. There were 7 or 8 questions all about equality. And we didn't finish every single question or sub-question. We're going to move on to a different subject. And we're going to look at one of the vowels. Some people may be aware, but I guess most aren't. We have an official version of the vowels. And that should be, I believe, May 2018, version 1.1. I believe that's the current official version that we have. You'll notice that we're using a digital whiteboard today, as well as a regular whiteboard. Hopefully that will work well for us. So the current official vowels are 2018 version 1.1. There's a draft version at the moment, which has not been released, which has some minor differences. They're not theological differences. So I'm going to read from the draft version, and I haven't cross-checked the exact differences between the two versions, but they're very minor. Send. So you can just read from the official version if you have that one. I'm not going to send the draft version out because it's only draft. But well, it'll be fine as you translate. I'll do it slowly. So today's study is baptismal vow 24. It reads, do you believe that on September the 11th, 2001, the mighty angel of Revelation 18 prophetically descended? Thus marking the beginning of the judgment of the living and the sealing of the 144,000. That's part one of the vow. Um, okay, so part one, it's in three parts, is about, we'll just call it 9/11. And the angel of Revelation 18. And the judgment of the living, and the sealing. Part two. Do you believe that at the very same time that the latter rain began to sprinkle upon the priests of Adventism, calling them to purify the Lord's temple in preparation for the latter rain at the Sunday law? Sorry. So this is still dealing with 9/11. And now it's talking about a slightly different aspect. We know it's 9/11 because it says at the same time. Then it uses the word or the phrase latter rain, and it says sprinkling upon the priests. And then it says this is preparation for the latter rain at the Sunday law. If you don't agree with the summary that I'm giving, or you read it differently, please say. Part three. Do you also believe that at the same time means 9/11, the third woe is represented by the power that we're all familiar with, arrived in history. So we'll call it the third woe, and I'm going to call it the east wind. Or what? Good. And that's when it arrived. So we have it all there. Part 1, 9/11, the angel of Revelation 18 comes down, and it marks the beginning of the judgment of the living. I'll add of the living, and the sealing of the 144,000. It's also marking the sprinkling of the latter rain. It's also marking the preparation for the latter rain at the Sunday law. And then the third element is it marks the entrance of the third woe. Its arrival in history. Then it gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Bible verses. Half of them are from Revelation, Ezekiel, Acts, and First Peter. Okay, so that's a summary of Vow 24. Now comes the question. The question is this, it's a long question. The vow says that all the events as coming down of angel of Revelation 18, judgment of the living, sealing of God's people, latter third woe began at 2001. So the question says, angel of Revelation 18, which we've got, judgment of the living we've got, sealing of the 144,000. The latter third woe began. I think that means the latter rain and the third woe. So I'm assuming there's a word missing. All began in 2001. So they've summarized the vow. We apply it to the Sunday law, even though the vow puts it at 2001. I understand that at 9/11, they began the first part of the latter rain, the sprinkling. Also, the writing in the books is part of judgment of the living. We can put this on 9/11. But what do we do with the sealing? Revelation 18 and the third woe, especially the sealing and coming down of the angel of Revelation 18, are things that, according to the great controversy, belong to the Sunday law and close of probation. Third woe, according to 9T, no pages given. And life sketches, no pages given. We put it on 9/11, but I said, that's me, said it doesn't belong there. We already asked another leader about this, but they were not able to give clarity. Can I please explain where these events correctly belong? Okay. Does anybody understand the question? Or was it all too complicated? Put your hand up if it was all too complicated for you. Okay, so about half the group, it's all too complicated. Because it's so complicated, I'm going to switch to the whiteboard if you're okay. Okay, switch. Okay. So, before we do that, let me just check something. Okay, so all I wanted to check was if you're going to do Val 24, you have to know a little bit about Val 21. Okay, here. So we're looking at Val 24. And I'm saying a person needs to understand Val 21. So this is the Niska's question. Are you aware of that? Yeah, because it's a 4-part Val 21, and it speaks about 9/11. And when it speaks at 9/11 on Val 21, it's in relation to what subject? Someone besides the Niska. What's the subject? Okay. Anybody know? Okay, so is everybody going to the baptismal vows because they don't remember, or what we're doing? Okay. So tell me what the subject of vow 21 is. Deniska, you tell me what the subject of vow 24 is. No, is Deniska tell me the subject of vow 24? I want Deniska to 24 and I want someone else to 21. One word or a short phrase. What is vow 24 about? When someone else finds 21, shout out.
Thousand one.
So vow 24 is about 2001. Yes, that's what you said, yes? And vow 24, vow 21?
1844 sanctuary.
Okay. It's about the sanctuary. And what is it about the sanctuary? It's October 22nd, 1844.
That Christ began the service in the Holy of Holies.
Okay. You're going to say to Mina? Okay, so we'll put the investigative judgment. So vow 21 is about the investigative judgment, 1844, October 22nd, and vow 24 is 2001. And the vow says many things happened in 2001. Without looking at the vow or at your notes, first tell me how many elements of 2001 without looking. You can remember. 5, 3, 4 or 5? 4 without looking. I hope we're doing it without looking. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put 5 because that's the biggest one. We've said 3. Okay, so Tamina, you give me 1. Peter? Sorry?
Third vow.
Third one. Thomas? That's there. Carol? No, you're not sure? He's already done that. Sorry, too late. Radka? Without looking. Can't look. No. Deniska, finish us off. You said 5, so there's 3 more.
Judgment of the living.
Everyone else can look. I'll let her finish first. She gets them.
Coming of the angel from the Revelation 18.
Okay, have a look. So it's on the projector for everybody as Deniska's looking for the last one.
Ceiling. Ceiling.
Yeah. Okay, so there were 5. You look on the projector, you'll see 5 there. Tamina, you wanted to say something? Okay. So everybody agree there's 5 elements. Yep. We shouldn't get confused about part 2. I don't want to point there because you won't see it on the video. But point 2, where it says preparation for the Sunday law. Because it's connected to the sprinkling. Okay. So we're all together now, hopefully. So what I'd like Deniska to do now is to tell us what her question is in a simple fashion. So it might be 3 questions. So if it's 3, that's fine. But each one has to be really simple so we can well defined, contained, so we can try to answer it. As she's thinking, we'll summarize what we've done so far. Deniska has gone to vow 24. I assume she's a teacher. I know she is, sorry. I know she's a teacher. And she says it's complicated and there's things that aren't clear. I don't know what the question is yet. the simple version. I said, if we're going to do vow 24, we need to understand vow 21. Vow 21 is about the investigative judgment. And we'll put the date, 22nd of October, 1844. And the connection between the two is this one there. Do we agree with that? The investigative judgment, the judgment of the living. Does everybody understand that connection? Yes? Hope anybody not understand? If you're a Millerite and you're coming to October, you believe that Christ is going to go from the holy place to the most holy place. I said something wrong? Sure. And what's going to happen is that judgment will come upon those who are alive on the earth at that time. And Monica said they didn't actually believe that before October. So I'm not disagreeing with what she said. My point is that they believe a judgment's about to happen upon those who are alive. We're not here to discuss the rights and wrongs of their theology, because that's not even the Niska's question. But I want us to see the connection between the two. Okay, so I'm hoping that's enough time for you, Deniska, to give us a simple explanation, sorry, a simplified version of your question. If it's in different parts, just give one, the first one. You okay? So question 1 or part 1.
At 9/11/2001, angel from Revelation 18 prophetically descended. Says the Babylon is fallen, is fallen. The other angel joins him in verse 4. Calls God's people out of Babylon. Yeah. Understand those to be for Sunday law and midnight cry. Well, loud. How does this apply to 2001?
Okay. Simplify your question.
I think Revelation 18 should go to Sunday law.
Is that your question, or you want to say a bit more?
Why do we put it on 2001?
Okay, so we're here, and your question is about Revelation 18. And you say
that it's a Sunday law.
you're saying Revelation 18. You want to give a verse? You want to put verse 2 and 4? Or 2, 2, 4? 1 and 3? You mentioned 4 before. You said 2 and 4 before, I thought.
Oh, no, she was saying 1, 2, I think, and then the other angel joins. That's verse 4. That's what she was
Yeah,
saying.
it's verse 4. She's mentioned verse 4 before. So tell me the verses.
3.
1 to 3. So not verse 4. Okay. So Revelation 18, 1 to 3, you're saying is that the Sunday law, not 2001, and therefore you think the vow isn't correct or is teaching some error, or you don't understand what the vow is doing.
I think it's wrong. I just don't understand why it is like this.
Maybe it's wrong. Why are you not prepared to think that it might be wrong if you can't figure out why it's there?
If the vows are given as the position of the movement, it can't be something wrong.
That's what they said about here. Monica said they were wrong. She didn't care. So, oh, give me a second. Just checking something. So it might be wrong. Let's not think that it couldn't be wrong. Okay. Any more questions? Or is that the only question? So as she's thinking, there are 5 elements to this vow, and she's said one of them looks wrong.
To it is connected the judgment of the living.
So question 2, judgment of the living. What's your question? Or your position?
Sorry, I got it wrong. I meant sealing.
Okay, the sealing of the 144,000. The vow might be wrong. And you think it's wrong because of what?
We had the Sunday law.
Okay, sealing of 144,000 is at the Sunday law, not 2001. Any more? Oh, that's it.
That's it.
All the other 3 you're fine with.
The way I got them explained, I'm fine with them.
Okay, so these 3 are all good. You can explain them and defend them. So you don't agree with that one? Oh, so there's a 3 then. Do you have a position on the third one?
I don't understand it very well.
Okay, so you're not disagreeing. You are disagreeing. If you're disagreeing, you have to have a position.
The events that we put on 9/11 as the third vow.
So wait, I'm going to put part. You've got a third question, and this is about the third row. And what's your position on the third row?
These verses that we were reading from 90, life sketches. At the first look, it looks like it's 9/11. But you were showing that it's not these events. I don't understand this.
Okay, I don't understand your question. I understand what you said, but I need a question or your position. All you've just said now is, I don't understand the third row. Then I'll rub that out. I'll erase that if it's just a lack of understanding. But then you said, actually, I disagree. And so, what's your position that you disagree with this?
According to events in the world that happened, that the third wave came in 2001. Radical Islam attacked America.
I'll stop you there. The vow says third row 9/11, and you just agreed with that. You can carry on.
Don't understand is that we would use those quotes from 90 and LS and we would put them on 9/11, and now you say they don't belong there. I don't understand this.
I don't care what I say. You tell me what you say. We've got two Spirit of Prophecy books. You've read and you've studied the passages. Tell me what you think they say. If you copied me, that's fine. If you copied someone else, that's fine. If you copied me or copied someone else, the source of your information, the Holy Spirit, doesn't matter. Just tell me what you believe. If I understood you correctly, you said the vow says 9/11, 2001, and the two quotes say something else. The two quotes say something else. The vow says third row is 2001. Yep. So what's your question?
I probably have to study it by myself. I don't have a.
You do. The third row is not. No, I won't say is not. Is what? What is the third row? Where? Where is it? Not what. Where?
2001.
You said it's not on the passages that you read.
Event, yes.
So just tell me where it is. When it is. You didn't tell me the source for this information. You stated it as your opinion, and I haven't asked you where you get your information from. On this one, you give me your source, and you won't give me the date. or the event? Why won't you just give it to me? Or you don't know?
2001.
So the passages say 2001 for you. That's what I'm asking you. Don't ignore the vowel. We'll go to the two passages, and what do they say? Don't read them out. Tell me what the event is.
The two buildings fell down. New York.
No, don't do that. Just give me the waymark. You gave me waymark. I gave you waymark. There's nothing here. What's the waymark? The third row is at.
I don't know if it's Sunday law.
Okay, so you think it might be Sunday law, but you said you're not sure on this one. You got another option? That you don't? So Sunday law, not 2001. So you got a problem with three of the five. And you're okay with these two, sprinkling and judgment of living? So you can show us that the judgment of the living begins at 2001. Yep. And you can show us that the sprinkling begins there. Okay. Everybody, we're all together? Okay. Peter, where are you not? Where are you either confused or you need some help?
When it's spoken, like when we look at the two texts that were mentioned, I thought the context is the close of probation, and that they don't talk about the third wall.
So we'll put this then, even though Deniska didn't say it. It doesn't, it just adds some information. It doesn't take away. Oh, yes. Is that okay?
Texts don't talk about the third wall.
Okay, so the text doesn't talk about the third woe. Okay. But Deniska says that it does in some shape or form. So, yeah. She can find the third woe there somehow. Is that fair enough? No, but when we check it, you might say, no, I can't actually, but you're saying that you can. That's because that's why it's there. I'm going to say yes for her because it is a yes. Okay, so we've got three questions. Everything else is good. Everybody, okay. Does it all make sense, Thomas? Yeah. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not saying you have the answer. I'm saying, does the question make sense? She says, we have a vowel, a really important vowel. The reason why it's important is because it's clearly a theological one. and it's dealing with 5 major topics. And these 5 major topics are all happening at a singular waymark. And Deniska is saying at least 3 of them are wrong. They've been put in the wrong place. And she's saying, explain. Okay, so if we're all together now, I did warn everybody that this vow is really complicated, in my opinion. I hope at least Deniska, if no one else, has watched the study that I did. It might be studies, it might be in more than one place. Right, one comes to my memory that I did in Australia. And I'm going to say either 18 or 19. Okay, I was going to go with 19 too, yes. So in 19, I did a study. I think I did vow 21 and 24 together, I think. And you've seen that? Okay, because every time I discuss this, Tamina says, actually, it's the German, you did it in Germany. So I did it in 2 places. You've seen the German ones, and you've seen both. And which is the better one, in your opinion? Or you need to watch both of them. I don't know. Okay, so Australia is a little clearer. Which one comes first, Australia or Germany? Do you know when Germany was? So if it's December 19, then Australia would be before that, I think. Okay, so I recommend people watch both of them. They're both in the 2019 era. So, Monica, did you know these? You obviously knew this question, and you didn't say to Deniska, the answer's in the presentation. We don't need to deal with it now. So I presume these questions have not been answered in those 2 series. That's my question to you.
No, I also don't have it clear.
Okay, so those presentations didn't help. Yep. Okay, so let's go to the vow. And because we're going to get a little bit technical, I'm going to go to the official vow. So part 1, it's on the projector now, but I have to read it. It says, do you believe 9/11, the angel of Revelation 18, basically comes down? But it says prophetically descended. So I assume you've looked at the wording carefully. I'm saying this respectfully. I'm assuming it's been translated correctly. It picked up this phrase where it says Revelation 18 prophetically descended. It specifically marks it that way. Okay, so Deniska, tell me what that means to you. Not the Revelation 18 bit. When it says prophetically, I'm not even bothered. We all know what descended means. Comes down from heaven. Why does it say prophetically?
The way I understand is that it's written in Bible and inspiration. That's what prophetically means.
If you go to Revelation 18, do you know that that's a prophecy? Yep. So we all know it's a prophecy. And if you look in other passages, in fact, we won't go to another passage. We'll go to part 3. Do you also believe that at the same time, the third woe, represented by the wild horse, what does it say after that? What's the word? I know the language might be a bit different.
Says it came or entered.
Okay, so in English it says it arrived. Yeah. What word is missing compared to what we did in the first bullet point? Prophetically. So why is it not in part 3 and part 2? And if you go to, I'll show you other vowels where it doesn't do that. It just says it came. This is either the only time or one of the rare times that the word prophetically is put there. So the question is, why? And so you already know that the answer you gave must be incorrect, because if it just means it's prophecy, which is, I think, what you said, the third woe prophetically arrived. But the vowel doesn't say that. And it wasn't an accident. The words are put in there specifically. Is that okay so far? I'm not saying you understand. Obviously I'm not asking you that because you don't understand why, but I'm asking, can you see the difference? That there's a difference. I'm not asking you why is there a difference. Okay, so we already know that there's something, I'm just going to say funny. Funny means different for me. There's something unusual about this angel, this Revelation 18 angel. Not unusual about the angel itself, not unusual about its descent. What is unusual is that this word prophetically has been added. And we need to try to understand why. So I guess in 2019, which was 3 years after this was written, I didn't explain properly why that word was added. And it's not clear to you. It's so unclear that you actually misunderstood what it meant there. But at least I want you to see that its placement there is different to other verses, other vowels. At least you can see that now. Okay. So the question then is, why was it put there? So does anybody know when these vowels were written? Oh. So it's in 2016. So I was given the task of writing these vowels. And I guess if you don't know when they were written, you don't know why they were written. So if you remember Millerite history, how long is Millerite history? Millerite.
Six.
46 years. Dates?
98 and 1844.
Okay. I want to split that into two parts. I won't put the waymark in there. Give me the date.
In 40.
So this is not going to be to scale, because if it was to scale, I'd have to draw it like here. I'm going to pull it back a bit. So you said 1840. So this is like 90% and 10%. Yeah, if you look at the scale. So for 90% of the history of the Millerite movement, Miller was saying something, or he had a theological position. And his position was no new. Does anybody know what was not going to be new? No new church. There is a new message for the existing church. So do we know what the word sectarian means, or the word sect? Schism. Yeah, okay. So he says we're not sectarian. Whatever denomination you are, you stay in your church. And it changes from 1840. And why does it change? Where does...
The prophecy was fulfilled.
Okay, but why does a fulfillment of prophecy... What is the change? It goes from no new church to a new church. The new church, we're just going to call it the Millerites, whatever they called it.
Because they rejected the message, and my husband says because they kicked them out of churches.
Good. We'll combine those two thoughts. There's a message. Initially, everybody accepts it. All the churches do. And when that acceptance happens, they can't maintain their power over the members. The members begin to drift away, and they follow this new teacher called Miller. And once they begin to lose their power, they reject the message. Once they reject the message, Miller is forced to create a new church. Are we okay with that? So I'm not trying to do line up these with any waymarks for us. Okay, so please don't do that. We're in this history, us. This is not line upon line. We're here, and Elder Jeff is going to start doing what?
Baptize.
Going to start baptizing. Is it legal or illegal?
In the eyes of church, it's illegal.
In our eyes, in God's eyes. Okay, so in fact, it's illegal. I think to say it's but illegal. It's illegal. Elder Jeff's theology is what? He's got a magazine called The Time of the End. And who's that magazine for? Who's the target audience? Adventism.
Adventist.
So if you're going to give a message to Adventism, what is the message? Daniel 11.
Daniel 11, 40, 45.
Is the message, come out of her, my people? No. Where are the people supposed to go?
Kam im bolo prikazané ísť?
Where are the people currently? Back then? You said already. Adventism. Where are they supposed to go?
Church.
They're already in the church. So where are they supposed to go?
New church.
No. They're supposed to go nowhere. If you check his magazine, it doesn't say we've got a Sunday law test and leave the church. It just says we've got a Sunday law test. And what are you supposed to do? Repent. Be converted. Stop being Laodicean. But you stay in the church. Just like this. No new church. And therefore, if you have no new church, it's not legal to baptize. So when they began baptizing, it got identified. Someone comes to them, the leaders of this movement, and say, you're not allowed to baptize, you need to stop. And they huff and they puff. They complain. You don't read Grimm's Fairy. They huff and they puff, and they say, oh, go on then, we better stop. Then a change happens. And we get to this point. And they haven't been baptizing. Now they're told, what do you have to do now? Yeah, you have to have a twofold message. The Sunday law is here, and you have to come out of Babylon, which was not true. So that got squashed very quickly. That idea got rejected. And so now we had a new model based from which Bible book, passage, prophecy? Two churches. Before, no new church. Now we say the message has changed. We've come to a realization that there is a twofold message, a Sunday law and a new church. So now you've got two churches. Where did that model come from?
To Ephes.
Sure, but where's the model come from to do that?
The time of Christ from
Nope.
Jews.
Nope. Tamina? Daniel 2. Deniska, what's Daniel 2 going to do?
The statue and the mountain.
No. Yes.
Then it's mountain and the stone.
Yes. This is God's kingdom. Two churches. So we've This is just refreshment. We're all familiar with this. As soon as we develop this model, now we not only are allowed to baptize, we're required to baptize. And so in 2016, once all of this had been worked out, now we're going to baptize. If you're going to baptize, you have to have some standards, if you like. The Adventists used to call it a creed. And they didn't want to have baptismal vows initially. They said it was wrong. But cutting the long story short, we decided to do vows. And that's when vow 24 comes in. So I think it's important for us to know this history a little bit. Did anybody not understand that sequence of events and the logic? Did anybody not understand those two things? The logic and the sequence. Sequence means how history developed. Why the movement was wrong to baptize first, and then it was required to baptize after. All good? So connected to that, 2001, even though it may need some modification, we realized that there had been a change of leadership from the Sanhedrin, the General Conference, if you like, to the leadership of this movement. So there are many stories, many models that we can use to show this transition from one church to two churches. And in that era, in that time period, as you mentioned, we began to do studies about the seven churches and how you get two churches coexisting at the same time. Or was it you or Monica that said in the time of Christ? Oh, it was Radka. You have two churches. You have Laodicea, the last church of ancient Israel. And then you have Ephesus, the first church of modern Israel. So we have all of these models. Does anybody not understand what I've said so far? Okay. So we're in 2016. Vow 24 has been written. And the person who wrote Vow 24 knew there was a problem. What was the problem that the person knew? Because the Niska knows the problem too. What's the problem?
Elder Jeff didn't agree with it.
Yeah, but let's tell us what the problem is, not who disagreed. You've got it on the board. What's the problem?
He was fixated on 9/11.
All of that is true. Revelation 18, everybody knows what?
Sunday law.
It comes down at the Sunday law. Everybody knows that, except Elder Jeff. He knows that it comes down at Sunday law. How do you know it comes down at Sunday law? I don't think there's any passage that will ever tell you 18 comes down at Sunday law. How do you know it comes down at Sunday law? Wait there. Judgment of the Living. You said Judgment of the Living is 2001. Right here.
Že súd nad živými.
You can't have it two ways. Okay. Let's try to keep it simple. So you know it's at the Sunday law. And how do you know it's at the Sunday law? Because you said it doesn't give a date, an event. Nowhere will you find, even in the spirit of prophecy, that anyone says 18 comes at the Sunday law. It can't be in the Bible, so we can close our Bibles because it never uses the term Sunday law. You only find that in spirit prophecy, and I'm 99.99% sure that she never says 18 is at Sunday law. She connects 18 with other markers, and those other markers we then say are connected to Sunday law. So it's secondhand information or circumstantial evidence. Tamina. No. You can do, but that would be like a second or third step away. Already you saw the trap that you had laid for yourself. You'd already agreed here, and then you had already tagged this with 18, and you've moved 18. So if you move 18, you're going to have to move the judgment of the living. And then you said about something about rain. And the vow says, what does the vow say? Which is part 2. It says something funny. I'll call it funny, but wrong. Tell me what's wrong with the second paragraph. Vow 24. Not here. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me the word that's wrong. Or the phrase that's wrong.
Same time.
No.
Like,
What did Peter say? Nearly. If you need help, I'll give you a clue. Peter, what's the other word for sprinkling? What's the word? Because we don't use sprinkling. What's the proper word for sprinkling? It's too easy to read.
rain.
Early rain. So now read that. Now read that, Deniska. Do you believe that at the very same time? Now read it. Read it in Czech, and I'm going to read it in English. Or at the very same time, the latter rain.
The train started
No.
sprinkling.
Sprinkling is not the word. We've already got the word. What does sprinkling mean, Peter?
Then sprinkling je ranný. Sorry, I get.
Latter early rain. Now put the proper word. At the same time, the latter rain. Make the sentence work.
The rain, it should be full outpouring.
Read what it says. Take sprinkling out and put former rain in there. And now tell me what it says. So the passage now reads, do you believe that when the latter rain comes, it begins to form a rain? What does that, what sense does that make? It doesn't make any sense. Agree with that? Okay. So the author knows that. So what does the author do? Cleverly. He takes out what phrase, Peter? He takes out what phrase? He takes out the phrase early rain, changes it to what, Thomas? Sprinkling, gets the sentence to work, and everybody gets tricked into thinking there's such a thing as a sprinkling of a latter rain, which doesn't make any sense. Because how many rains you got now? Former rain? Then you got 3. Number 2. The sprinkling of the latter rain. And then the verse says what? I don't think it actually says in verse 24. Did something change on my screen? All good? Okay, but it's something changed. Okay, so we've got former rain, sprinkling of the latter rain, then full outpouring of the latter rain. Does that make any sense to you? No, because you can't find it in any reference. Otherwise, it will only give us 2 rains, not 3. Okay, so if we're okay with all of that, we've got 2 problems now. What was paragraph 1? What we added? Prophetically. Number 2, we've added sprinkle. So the vow doesn't make sense when you analyze it. And that's all the problems that you're picking up. The latter rain. When does the latter rain begin to come? I don't want to use the word pour. When does it begin, the latter rain?
Sunday law.
Begins at the Sunday law. How do you know? Thomas, how do you know it's set to Sunday law? You're not sure? Peter, when is it?
From Ellen White.
Okay, with Ellen White. Mina? And you see the fruit when? Yeah, but that's a tautology. You've got to reference it to a waymark. I want the waymark.
Okay.
Not sure? Okay. Deniska? When's the latter rain?
Uh-huh.
And how do you know?
Controversy 6:11.
You have a page. You have it in front of you. Read it out. We don't worry about translating. Just read it in Czech for everybody. Thomas, did it say that? It said latter rain is at Sunday law? Yep. Okay. So I don't know what is in the English version, but someone can find out and they can share it with people if it's not the same page. With what's that?
Say it's Sunday law.
Oh, it doesn't say. He said it did. Double deception. She said it did. Okay, so it's not. Peter, you said spirit prophecy. Would you know where? Oh, okay. It doesn't say it. Okay. So we don't know where the latter rain is then. You don't have to explain it or read it to us. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, I'll take your word for it.
Event when the third angel's message is empowered.
And when's that?
In the text.
Okay. So I'm going to take this out. Someone say something? Okay, so we'll go to Tamina's method, which is what? Matthew 13. Go ahead.
It's when the letter already.
And just don't go into details. Just tell us where we're going to go. And the logic. Simply.
You want a Bible verse?
We'll start where you're gonna go to.
Matthew 13.
Matthew 13. Which parable?
The wheat and the tare.
The parable of the wheat and the tares.
And you see when the fruit comes forth. Or then you see the difference between tares and wheat.
So if you go to Matthew 13 and you use an agricultural model there, you can take that agricultural model from Matthew 13, break down the various parts, go to other Bible verses and spirit of prophecy quotes, and then you can overlay those other verses and quotes over Matthew 13. And therefore you can parallel an agricultural model with the plan of salvation and last day events. And if you do all of that, you can line up Sunday law with the latter rain. But that's not how we did it originally. Originally, we did it with spirit of prophecy quotes, putting the pieces together. Okay, so if we say that the angel of Revelation 18 comes down at some point in history, and we're going to connect that to the latter rain. That's the logic that you provided, but you struggled to show us the proof. Ellen White, or the Bible, or we have to work out some model, will show us that the latter rain occurs at the Sunday law. And what does Elder Jeff teach? Elder Jeff's going to teach that the Sunday law comes Sorry, the latter rain comes before the Sunday law, not after the Sunday law. And what is the latter rain? Simply,
Outpouring of the Holy Spirit.
a message. It's a message. We can prove that from some Old Testament passages. How you can get the Holy Spirit, an oil, and a message. So we can prove that it's a message. And he's got this message before the Sunday law that predicts it. Therefore, he says, the Lord has anointed me. He didn't say that literally. With this new message. New message must mean new rain. The only new rain that there is latter rain. Former and latter, that's all you have. So he's going to develop an argument to show you that the latter rain is before the Sunday law. And then he's going to see that there was some empowerment of this message, which means an outpouring, if you like, at what event? I mean, he just told us 9/11. So that's where we get 9/11 in its relationship to the Sunday law. And he makes that all up. And I don't mean that in a silly way. I believe what he taught was true. It's not in agreement with inspiration. And therefore, the author either says Elder Jeff is teaching error, which means we don't have a movement, or the author does what? Part one of the vow. What does the author do?
Prophetically.
Fix the wording prophetically. And what does prophetically mean in this context?
That it can come to 9/11.
You're too polite.
It's like a prediction that the third angel will come.
You're also polite. The word prophetically means it didn't really come down, but let's pretend that it did. So that the movement stays in harmony. The message is in alignment with the vowels, and the vowels are in alignment or harmony with the message. The message, Elder Jeff, the message is in alignment with the vowels, and the vowel is in alignment with the message. Once you do that, then what do you have to do? You go to number 2. Latter rain is when? Sunday law. Did you have that here? No. Because you accepted that and you shouldn't have. Because you got deceived by the sprinkling. So the author knows the latter rain is at Sunday law. And Elder Jeff says it's when? 9/11. And so, to keep the movement in unity, they add the word sprinkle, which says, in the time of the 144,000, we'll call that latter rain, which would begin when? 9/11. It's not true. So it begins at 9/11, and we'll call the first bit the sprinkling, and the second bit, the outpouring of the latter rain. So that gets dealt with that way. And you said, I think you said you're okay with, oh no, the third woe. So then it says the third woe arrived into history. You said that's wrong. Because you go to inspiration. You said Sunday law. Peter said close the probation. And without discussing it, we'll put what I believe is the correct answer. Close the probation. So we see that there are many problems with this vow, or many interesting bits if you don't want to use the word problem. So what it's trying to do is, instead of rewriting the message, it tries to incorporate the message as it was with all the issues that you've picked up. We'll call it inspiration, and try to get them to fit together. Now, you might say, and what would you say now?
Didn't we rewrite it already?
What a rubbish vow. Why didn't we do it properly? Okay, that's what your position is.
Now we can redo it. Why don't we?
That's fine. Whenever we did it, why did we do a rubbish vow? When the vow was written, everything I've told you now was already known. So it's not like, why can't we redo it now? Unless you mean, now Elder Jeff isn't looking, we can do it now. This author doesn't care about Elder Jeff. They'll do what they want. So it's not about fear of Elder Jeff. So we'll take that. That's not the reason. So we've got what you call a rubbish vow, and what the author calls a masterpiece of poetry, artistic expression. Any questions? Anybody? Okay, so we've run out of time. So I want to say this. The author knows all of this. The author isn't scared of Elder Jeff or challenging Elder Jeff. So why does the author do this?
There is some way in which we can put it on 9/11.
Okay, we'll go with that. This says there's some way you can get it to work. So I don't want to challenge that. But what I want to say is this. We have 5 waymarks in our line, in every line. The problem with those five waymarks, or having 5, is what? What's the problem? You have a line with 5 waymarks. Okay, I'm going to ask the same question in a very different way. You said 1, 2, 3. You should have said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all wrong. And your proof for them being all wrong is what? What's your proof?
These events should go to Sunday law.
How do you know? What's your proof that it's all wrong?
With the events.
This is the problem. When we go to these 5 waymarks and we tag everything to 911, the reason you said wrong, wrong, wrong is because there's no proof. There's no evidence that they tag to 911. In fact, the proof says they go to other waymarks. Okay with that? So we've got 5 waymarks. And what's the problem with that line? Anybody? Good. Tamina? We made one up. That's what the problem is. You can't go to inspiration to find this one. We have to construct it. Oh, sorry. This one is time at the end. We might have made a new time at the end, but it's still given to us. Okay, so it's this one here that we have a problem with because it's not an inspiration. So if we understand that, all of this stuff, what is the original logic or argument or proof for 911? We'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which is the one that takes us to 911? 2? Any other numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This number 2? Okay, we'll go with that. So sorry? You think 18? Sorry? I'm going to go with the third row. The third row is the one that connects or is hardwired to 2001. And Deniska told us where you find the connection. Testimonies to the Church, Volume 9, and Life Sketches. So that's how we make the connection between the third row and 2001. And when you're teaching Vow 24, when you make that connection, you have to tell the people what? Your student, what you have to tell them. No, not what your face is, what you have to tell them, Monica. Oh, you're not answering. Oh, okay. It didn't happen. Those passages do not take you to 911. They take you to the close of probation. And we have to be honest to say they do not point to 911. The author knew that when the vow was written. I think Elder Jeff knew that too. Some members perhaps didn't know. So we have to be really clear about that. And the reason this vow is created in this way, with those tricky words, is to give some credence, some proof to create 911. And the way we create 911 is because of what we saw on the TV. Because what we saw on the TV looked very similar to what we read in inspiration, but they're two separate events. And that's why the vow was written that way. I don't believe it needs to be rewritten. I think it just needs to be explained well. Because if I were to say to you, okay, let's rewrite it so it's accurate, tell me which vow would point you to 911 now. None of them. So you'd have to create vow 27 for 911. And now you're going to have to give a vow that proves it in some way. And if you're going to teach 911, how would you do that? I'm going to suggest you'd use 5 markers: sprinkling, woe, judgment, 18, and sealing. You have to use either all 5 or at least some of them. So you'd create a new vow, fix this one, and you'd actually see that you're back at the same place. So that's why that vow is here, and it has stayed here. I think it still will stay here. We might reword it a little bit to make it a bit clearer. Is it technically wrong? Yes. The reason it's technically wrong is because there's no way to create a 911 anywhere. Unless you take some picture from inspiration and change it into something that it never was. Is that illegal? Do you think it's illegal? You're not sure? Okay, so if you're not sure, then that means it's pretty bad to do that. So our defense has to be on the testimony of 2 a thing is established. And what does that mean? Several testimonies of what?
What we're proving.
We have to have several testimonies that in the past, someone said something. The buildings in New York are going to get destroyed. And when they said it, it meant something. Later on, when that person's gone away, someone will stand up, look at that passage, that story, and they will turn it into something different. That's what we have to show. Some other testimonies or examples of where that's done. And then we say, if they can do it, we can do it. So when we're teaching this vow, that's another thing that we need to do. When we've shown what we've done, why we've done it, then we have to prove that it's legal to do that. And I can assure you that it is. And those studies are in the public domain that give other examples of where you get a passage and someone changes it. There's lots of them. I'll give you 2. One of them is the Star of David. What is the Star of David originally? What does it turn into? So that's one example. Then it says all of Israel are not Israel. when you start trying to analyze that, you see it's an Old Testament story, which then begins to change. When you take the 12 tribes and split them 10 and 2, those 10 tribes are Israelites, and they get changed to Gentiles, like by magic. So there are many examples that later prophets use or reuse old information in a brand new way. So we can go to 90 live sketches. We have to know what they mean originally. And that's where some people made mistakes. They said they actually mean 9/11 and they don't. And you know they don't. That's why you saw a problem. So when you know that they mean that, then what gives us the license to change it? And I think if we believe who we are, new church, that we have the authority to go in and change the meaning of those for our dispensation or our circumstances. So I hope that has given at least a cursory or a surface explanation of this verse or this Bible vow. Why certain words were put in there that shouldn't really be there technically. But if you cleaned it all up, you wouldn't have a 9/11 anymore. Verse 24 would be a Sunday law verse. And all Adventists know there's a Sunday law coming. So it'd be a redundant vow. That's why it's there and written that way. It's not even though the way I gave the story that Elder Jeff was doing funny things, that's not the thought I want to leave you with. He knew what he was doing. The author knew what they were doing. And to sustain and maintain 9/11, you have to add these pieces of information in. Or this is a Sunday law vow. You have to create a new 9/11 vow. And I don't think you can do it. Because the only way 9/11 is created is with number 3. And you use Life Sketches 9/11 and a couple of other ones. You know, the angry horse, you're familiar with that passage. So I hope that helps. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we thank you. We ask that you would guide, protect, and shield us as we try to gain a better understanding of vow 24. May we see the beauty of your truth. May we have a better grasp of methodology, how this movement has dealt with complex issues, and how you have helped us to come to a correct understanding of things. Be with us and bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.